This is session number 35 of the Silvertrac Extra.
Thanks for tuning in to the Silvertrac Extra, your source for the best tips, tricks, and how-tos to dominate the security industry, helping you improve your business, win more contracts, and crush your competition. Here are your hosts, Chris Anderson and Johnny Page.
What's up, Silvertrac Nation? Johnny Page here along with Chris Anderson, and today we've got a special episode in store. Today's going to be the first episode of our new customer spotlight, in which we'll take a couple of minutes to spotlight one of our customers that is out in the security industry doing amazing things. And today we have our first guest of the customer spotlight, Greg Woodbury. He's from G. Woodbury and Associates. Greg, welcome to the Silvertrac Extra.
Thanks, Johnny, and thanks, Chris, for having me on.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, how long you've been in operation, and sort of the industries that you're serving?
We've been in business now for going on 8 years, and we service the security guard services, obviously, and then we also do private investigation for those spousal investigation workshops and those types of things. And we're based in southeast Michigan. We cover everything from Bay City all the way down to the Ohio border over to like the Lansing area, which is a pretty large geographical area in Michigan.
Very cool. Now tell us a little bit about your company and how you guys operated before you used Silvertrac, and kind of what led you to start considering a tool like Silvertrac.
Well, we do mainly apartment communities in the Flint, Detroit area, which are two of the larger cities within southeast Michigan. And we use Silvertrac on a daily basis. It's been a great tool for us and a great thing for our customers as well. Before we came across Silvertrac, and we just happened to come across it on a competitor's website, and we were doing everything on Excel. So our guards would do everything on Excel. They'd create a PDF at the end of the shift, and then they would submit it into Dropbox so that I could view it and our clients could view it at the same time. But there were some significant downfalls with that. One, I couldn't see what was going on a regular day-to-day basis. I couldn't see if people were at work. I couldn't see if they were doing anything, what was being performed. I couldn't see reports until the end of the shift when they were all done and they'd submit them, and that was 4 a.m. The other downfall was we had guards that were working properties where they didn't have access to offices. So they were going home after their shift and completing their daily reports. Sometimes that wouldn't get done till 11 or 12 the next day when they would wake up, because immediately when they go home, they want to go to bed. So I'd have a client call me at 9 o'clock and go, hey, was your guard here even last night? So when we came across Silvertrac and saw all the great tools with the barcode scanning and the up-to-date tracking of what everybody's doing, it was basically a no-brainer for us to come on board with it.
Now, Greg, did you consider a couple different solutions? Like, did you look into maybe using like the DEGI systems that are out there, or any of the other reporting softwares that are available before you went with Silvertrac, or were you pretty confident that Silvertrac was the right solution?
Well, I had a little bit of background in marketing and software, and so as soon as I saw it was web-based, which was important to me. And the GPS tracking was the other thing that was important to me. In the past, in another guard company I'd worked at, we had the old button system where you'd pull up to a spot and hit it with a button. But even as a guard, I'd fumble through on even how to use that. You know, you plug in different buttons to make it do different things, and you can't ever see it until you download it. So that was my first experience with any type of tracking, and that was, I didn't think, beneficial at all. I didn't even know if it was doing anything when I was hitting the buttons and reporting back data to the boss. So when I saw this with real-time updates and all the other benefits that were there, it was the only solution we looked at.
Yeah, Greg, I also remember we spent quite a bit of time on your parking management side, too, because of your apartment communities. I think that's one of the reasons why you called me originally, is because you wanted a better way to track vehicles and track problem people that are at the community. So I think you and I spent quite a bit of time on the parking management side, too, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, parking is a big issue with all of our apartment communities, and some of them didn't even have any type of management system where, hey, these cars are coming in, the residents are parking wherever they want. Does this car even belong here? How long has it been parked here? And the parking management system really fixes all that.
What does your daily operation look like now, your role as an owner, and how has that kind of changed from the previous operation where you are downloading the Excel files out of Dropbox? How has this kind of changed your day-to-day now that you have Silvertrac in place?
Well, one thing is I can sleep a lot easier because now at 8 o'clock at night when my last guard reports on duty, I can log on and see, okay, he's made it. He's into work tonight. I don't have to worry about a no-show call-off that I've got to scramble to cover after 8 p.m. The other thing is my guards give me a hard time because sometimes they laugh that I have modified Silvertrac to go off in my desktop when I'm sitting at home, that they've done something or done some work that I need to review because quite often, I'll call them when they are in the middle of doing something or writing a report, and I'll go and I'll ask for clarification on what is going on based on what they've submitted so far, or ask them to update it and add more information going forward. So they give me a little bit of a hard time sometimes about reading constantly what they're doing. But in the morning, it's nice because I get up, first thing I do after checking email is I log on to Silvertrac and I look at all my priority ones and my priority twos. Anything major happened last night that I need to know about immediately, so I can be ready for that phone call from a client if there was an issue on the property the night before.
Now, how has this changed your customer or the relationship with your customers? Have you noticed that there's a change in the way that you interface with them?
Well, the biggest thing is they don't ever ask me, hey, are you guys doing this? Hey, are you guys doing that? It's all right there. With our standard patrol procedures, we check buildings every night. They don't call me and go, I don't think your guard's checking the buildings anymore. They have to. You look at the daily log, you can look through there in 2 minutes and tell that all 40 buildings were checked on that property that night. So it prevents them from calling myself and going, hey, is your guard even doing this work anymore? The other thing that's really nice is accounts that are not active or they're very slow is I tell my guards, hey, you've got to scan something every 15, 20 minutes. It prevents my client from calling me and then me calling you, asking you, hey, did you fall asleep between 2 and 4? Because their employees who don't like us being there said that you were asleep. When I can look on Silvertrac, I don't even have to call to wake up the guard. I go, he fell asleep between 2 and 4? Well, here's a break of 5 minutes where he wasn't doing something. Maybe it was then. And the clients really don't even bother calling anymore.
Wow. So is it safe to say that the phone rings a little bit more often for good reasons and a little bit less often for bad reasons?
I would say that for sure. In fact, the phone doesn't ring hardly at all anymore. That's the nice thing.
Yeah,
it's usually me calling them.
Yeah, clients never call you to tell you the good stuff, do they, Greg? That's the only bad part.
No,
Some
they
do.
don't.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, let me ask you something, because when I had my business, and just be really honest with our listeners, your radio time, your patrol times to the job, because everybody does the hits, right? I don't know if you're still doing that or not. We had this conversation when you first started, but what has been the time savings, do you think, for your patrol guys? 30, 40, 50, 60% versus what you were doing before, right? With these guys trying to rush out there and have to write a report, that takes a lot of time versus now being able to do a QR code or a quick scan or a report. How much time do you think you saved, whether on patrol times or radio time or even dispatch? What do you think your percentage
Well, for
is?
me, I still go out and I still work the properties just to be in touch with what's going on, and it saves me a ton of time. You can have an incident or an issue, and before you're 15 feet away from where it ended, you can have it already written up and submitted with photos and audio documentation all at the same time, which is really nice. It saves you a ton of time in going back, especially if you have photos involved, where you've got to, now I've got to get on my phone, I've got to email that photo to my email, go to the desktop, log in, download it, attach it to the report. That takes a ton of time. Now they're automatically synced up and it's just saved. They can go on about their business rather than going, hey, I need to get back to the office. I need to write these 3 reports. And then when they're in the office, they end up sitting there for an extra 45 minutes when they could be out doing other things.
Yeah. So let me ask you, we've heard on the patrol using our system that some clients report up to 40 to 60% time savings in their patrol times. Would you say that's a fair number? Or would you agree to that?
That's a very fair number. Yeah, that's a fair number. Yep.
Okay, so that's quite a bit of savings. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, you spend more time doing what you should be doing, which is being on the ground, on your feet, patrolling that property or community, rather than in the office writing a report, downloading a picture for a parking complaint.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. Now, Greg, a couple of quick questions, and this is more for some of our existing customers out there who listen to the show and want to know how other companies are handling these specific issues. First, do you use Silvertrac as a value add, or are you using this as an upsell? So are you including it by default for all of your accounts, or are you using it as an upsell to try and get an extra line item on the invoice to your customer?
I use it as value added, and I've seen some articles and whatnot floated around about upselling. No matter what, all of my clients get Silvertrac on their property. It's not an added bonus, or it's not a upsell item. I don't charge them more because with the way the penny pinchers are these days, they're going to tell you no matter what. If it's gold bread, they're going to tell you no. We always have it on all of our property, even on an account that we only do 9 hours a week at, because it provides the accountability for the officers on that property that they're doing their job. It prevents the client from calling, and it makes their job way easier. So
in addition, have you found, I think the hesitation a lot of times to include it as a value add is, I'm taking on the extra cost, right? But what we've just discussed in the efficiency on the patrol side, and just with even on the standing guard side, to have the officers and the operation much more efficient. You're not taking extra time to download the Excel files anymore and having all that extra follow-up. Yeah, would you still say that there's the efficiency has offsetted the cost, that you're not having to front the cost of the software or take on that cost yourself, that you've added efficiency to the point where it's saving you money in other areas?
Yeah, it's saving us money there, and it's even more importantly, it prevents that client from calling me going, hey, your guy's not doing his job, when in fact he is. So in turn, I will keep that client longer.
Right, retention, absolutely.
It's all about retention. Keep that client forever.
That's great.
So Greg, real quick, have you honestly noticed a better retention rate with your customers?
Yeah, we have noticed, and more importantly, they don't call me for hey, your guard fell asleep, your guard wasn't here, all that kind of stuff. I can manage before it happens. If we have a call up or a no-show, boom, we're right on it. Somebody's there within 15 minutes because I can tell on Silvertrac whether or not they showed up.
The second question that pops up a lot with our existing customers, are you using company phones and putting a phone on every post, or are you using the bring your own device model?
And that's a good question, Johnny. And you and I talked about this last week after I listened to the other podcast on this subject, because when we first went to Silvertrac, I got some kickback or some hesitation from my current staff on using phones. And I said, okay, we have two options. I will provide phones at each site, or you can use your own. So the two benefits or drawbacks to both were, if I provide you phones and you sign them out, and the next person comes in and that phone is damaged and or does not work, you have to pay the replacement value. We all know that smartphones run between $300 and $500. The other thing I reminded them was that, oh, by the way, our handbook that we have in place specifically says you're not supposed to be using things like YouTube, Facebook, and those types of items while you're at work, which we can begin to enforce, or I can be more lackadaisical about. So immediately, as soon as we discussed those two different pros and cons, they immediately said, no problem, we'll use our phone. The other concern they had was, this is going to track me all the time. This is going to use up all my data. And after using it the first month, they really saw no increase in either one, and there's no tracking consistently going on. And so the employees love it. They They use their own phone. It comes charged. They always have it with them. They're not broken. I would rather hire a new guard that's 20 years old with no experience than somebody that is 55 or 60 that's never had a smartphone that's got 30 years of guard experience.
That's great.
I hired a couple of 20-year-olds last summer to do some part-time work. I showed them how to write 2 reports on maintenance for lights out, and they would have the report completed, submitted with photos faster than I could point to the light and go, hey, write that one up.
Yeah.
Because the 20-year-olds know how to use the phones. The older generation, they're not accustomed to using the phone, and it's, I can have a guard with 30 years experience, and I had one that had a disorderly drunk guy on a property, and all it said in the report was disorderly drunk, and it wasn't even classified as the correct type of call.
Wow.
And I'm like, I need more information than this. You're killing me.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, have you been able to reduce your payroll a little bit because you don't have to go out and look for the prima donnas anymore? In other words, you got these 20-year-old kids that first-timers that love to have a job, period, right? So you put them out in the field.
Yep.
They're obviously doing great reporting, so I bet your payroll's reduced tremendously.
Yeah, it is. And I'm specific when I look for 20-year-olds that have had 2 or 3 jobs and try to look to make sure they've had those jobs for at least a substantial amount of time. I've looked at a couple 20-year-olds that have never worked before, and with today's day and age, those guys really don't work out that well. Their work ethic's not very good.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, Greg, we sincerely appreciate you taking the time to share here. We just applaud you on what you're doing. It's cool to see someone go from to see the before and after picture. And I know there's a lot of hard work and a good amount of time that's gone into really changing the way you operate internally, but you're constantly someone who looks at your business, tries to find ways to improve, and so you're getting the most out of the software. So we appreciate your business, and we appreciate your willingness to come on and share what you're doing with all the listeners of the Silvertrac Extra.
Well, thank you.
Well, Silvertrac Nation, as always, we have got a written article available in the show notes section at silvertracsoftware.com/35 for this inaugural episode of our Customer Spotlight. And if you heard some of the things that Greg was talking about today, and you thought, maybe this is something that I should look into, Chris and I would love to meet with you and tell you a little bit more about how we help deliver results for guys like Greg every single day as we continue to push the security industry to new heights of success. So visit us at silvertracsoftware.com and schedule a demo. We'd love to get together to learn more about your business and to see how the software can help you achieve some new results of your own. And until next time, my name is Johnny Page. I was joined here today with our amazing guest, Greg Woodbury, and my co-host, Chris Anderson, and we'll see you next time here on the Silvertrac Extra.
This has been another episode of the Silvertrac Extra. For more insider information, visit silvertracsoftware.com/extra. Listen on the go by subscribing in iTunes. Want to hear your questions answered on the show? Visit silvertracsoftware.com/questions to submit your requests.